Hey everybody, it is February 10th, 2022, Helm Dev meeting with a lot of the regulars, and welcome to anybody watching this later. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna since I'm helping to moderate this or host this, I'll first say, Bridget, you want to announce 3.8.1?
I just want to remind people that they should be adding items to the 3.8.1 milestone if they're bug fixes or perhaps working on the items in there, because we want to release that bug fix March 9th. Is there a specific date that we would want to have everything in there finalized? I'm looking at the blank box that says Matt Farina on it.
I mean, the sooner the better. Preferably things that also have pull requests with them at this point, but there is no date. Just the day of, we'll go through and move everything to the next milestone that's not in. So let's try to get stuff in and reviewed.
Awesome, thanks.
Nice. Okay, cool. And then do you want to go right to your first discussion, Matt?
Sure. I just wanted to let everybody know that Chris Anachek had set us up to get some fuzzing reports and testing for the main Helm client. For those of you who don't know what fuzzing is, you basically put in crazy input and make sure that your system doesn't break and you get some good output. And I think we've got somebody on from that team. David, you there? Yep. I don't know if you wanted to say something about this, since you're the one who Chris brought in to help us with this.
Yeah, hey all, I'm David from Logics, and we're doing a bunch of work with fuzzing many different CNCF projects. You can look at some of this on the CNCF GitHub repository. Let me just paste you a link here in the chat. GitHub/CNCF/CNCF-fuzzing, and there's information about it there. But in short, what it is we started working with CNCF and doing these security audits that were focused on fuzzing projects, and it started as a very time constrained, time boxed approach, whereas now it has turned into a little bit more fuzz this project, but engage with the developers, because fuzzers would like to be part of the project and so on, and it's not so time boxed in the sense, because we are trying to merge in with what works for you. So in essence, what it is we develop a bunch of fuzzers which are meant to do randomized testing of a given of the Helm code, and the goal is to find various issues in the code, and the usual aim is to write these fuzzers and then also integrate with a service called OSSFuzz. And OSSFuzz is this service run by Google by way of a GitHub repository, Google/OSSFuzz on GitHub. And essentially what it does is it runs fuzzers continuously. So we upload fuzzers to a given repository, and then OSSFuzz will grab these every day and run them for a few hours, and it will just do that indefinitely. And the main point of integrating into this continuous system is that fuzzers build up a corpus over time, which means that in order to really maximize output of a fuzzer, you need to do it as much as possible, and you need to not start from zero every time, but start from where you left off. And so that's essentially the goal. And the way we usually approach this is so we can start with very little information. In essence, we can start to do in this CNCF fuzzing repository that I linked to, we can create a project there with a bunch of fuzzers that will target the Helm code, and we can then do the integration with OSSFuzz as well. And the only thing we actually need from you guys in order for this to start running is a list of emails to developers that will receive notification when issues are found. such as bug reports or other things. And these issues will, meaning whenever a bug's found, you will get an email notification, and this email notification will have a link to a report on ossfus.com, which is also a service hosted by Google. That will have a lot of information, such as detailed stack traces and how to reproduce the issues and so on. And usually the approach is just to kickstart the project by doing exactly this, integrating a bunch of fuzzers by way of the CNCF fuzzing repository, doing the OSS fuzz integration, and then starting to see results. And then we usually talk to developers how they prefer to navigate from there, from the perspective of some projects really want to have the fuzzers that we write into the upstream project, but other projects are not so happy about this because there's a lot of workload in terms of reviewing the code. And sometimes it's smarter to just stick with the CNCF fuzzing, because I mean, if you look at the CNCF fuzzing repository, some of these projects have like 40, 50 fuzzers, and it can just be a heavy workload sometimes to review it in order to merge it into an upstream project. So mailing lists are not super encouraged because in order to see the detailed reports, you need to log on to ossfus.com, and in order to get into those, you will have to have a Google account affiliated with the email, and then see the details. So it's because of the authentication system around it. You can use mailing lists in order to get notifications of when a bug happens, but that notification will essentially just say, there's an issue, like this fuzzer has found an issue, and here's a link to the details. And in order to get the details to really understand it, you need to have an email that is affiliated with the Google account in order to log in. So that's it. And we usually prefer to do this in a way that fits developers fits maintainers of a given project, however that may be. And we are also just happy to get started and just get a list of emails and then just kickstart everything and then see what happens, and refine based on what you guys prefer.
Great, thank you. That's awesome. There's some in the some questions and things in the chat. Right before you mentioned that, David, I had put the the CNCF email list because that's our current policy. That's not a Google address, obviously, but there are a list of people that are part of the security group. But if anyone else has
so this one isn't really security. Fuzzing isn't necessarily a security issue. And so we should probably go ahead and see which of the maintainers can give up their Google accounts to be linked into this. I know I'm one of the people who can, but I can go ahead and email the maintainers list for the Helm client and see who's willing to supply a list and send it over.
Yeah, Matt, you mean it's not a security vulnerability?
Yeah, none of this stuff's security vulnerabilities.
Right.
It's more, you might get a panic.
Not true.
That's not true. You're right. Sometimes it could be
security and reliability issues. That's essentially it. And also some false positives if we write the fuzzers wrong. So there will be a mix of, or like the build infrastructure or something fails, then you will also get a notification that the build fails. So there's security vulnerabilities. And I would just like to highlight here, it has found severe security vulnerabilities in some of the very big CNCF projects. And so don't discard it initially, but the majority, especially in Go projects and so on, there's a lot of reliability issues. So therefore, developers are also encouraged to look at it. And most often, the majority of projects that we are working on with CNCF is mainly developers that just look at the bugs and then fix them rather fast, in a sense, without doing too much, analysis on the severity or severity of it. But you're entirely right. This is certainly not limited to security, and you should probably estimate that the majority will be reliability issues.
So ultimately, I agree with you, Farina. Never mind what I put in the chat. I always think of fuzzing in terms of security, but that makes sense. Going to the devs first, and then the devs can pass on to the security team.
And most of the security team is on the dev list. So if they go ahead and agree, then it's not going to be a problem. So I'll take the action to email that dev list and get back to you with some email addresses.
Also, just to clarify, so I just put a link in the chat to an example project YAML file for the Vitesse project, and you can see that the emails are just lists in a repository. Meaning, if you want to change, add, modify, remove people from the notification list, you can just do a pull request on the OSS first repository, and that will do it. So it's not a huge decision initially as to who will be on, in the sense that you can modify however you like at any instant.
Okay.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Bridget, you had a question again for Farina about the bot.
Oh, I know that he was going to reach out over email about the size label bot, and I'm just wondering how that ended up, or where we're
Yeah.
at with
So
that.
I sent it out and I get a little feedback, nothing that said stop doing it, but we're adding an app to the GitHub org. So I need to send that to the org maintainers under lazy consensus. And I forgot to do that. So now that I see it, I have the email crafted and opened here. And so I will get it sent right after this meeting.
Awesome, thank you. And let's see, Tom and Josh aren't on the call, so I'll defer my question about that HIP. I'll just say that I have people asking, I have colleagues asking like, oh, is this moving along? And I'm like, hey, we got to discuss it in the HIP. So I guess my call to action to everyone is, if you have opinions about that HIP that's in progress for identifying images for Helm chart, it would be awesome if you go and you comment on it so we can move this HIP along.
Taking off the moderator hat for a second, I also had a question, interestingly, again for Farina, because there was a comment that you had made in there about not about there being a problem with adding additional keys to the struct, and my understanding was that adding additional keys, we had deemed it was backwards compatible. Maybe I just misunderstood, or I just want to double check with you about that one.
It is not backwards compatible because of the way that we parse the chart.yaml file is not in a backwards compatible way. There was for security, we have locked in those things because of the way the parsing libraries work. And so for security, in order to enable certain security features, it's the structure is locked, which is why we use annotations to add some of those opt-in things now. When we rev the chart version, which means we'll rev the Helm version as well, that's when we can add new structure to the chart YAML file.
Oh, right. Bumping the chart API. Yeah, that's right. And right. Got it. And that has backwards that could have backwards compatibility implications. So we've tried not to do that too much, is what you're saying, right?
It will have backwards compatibility implications. So if you add a field, there's versions of Helm in the wild that would read that chart YAML with a new field and throw an error because the structure is incorrect.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually forgot about that when I made that suggestion on the issue. So I think that's really our answer ultimately, is that issue can be, I think Tom really just needed some direction of which way to go. And it sounds like it really has to be annotations for now.
It has to be an annotation. That's the only way to go.
At least until Helm 4.
Yes, and then we're revving to a new version of charts as well, which wouldn't be compatible with Helm version 3 either. Yeah. And so it'll be a while. So the only short-term solution is an annotation.
That makes sense. So I think we're unblocked on that, Bridget, as the answer to the people asking. And
okay, so we just need to finish that HIP and move it forward, whatever the process to get the HIP in, and then we can identify developers who want to start working on it. Right?
Yes.
I look forward to seeing that HIP merged and recruiting people to start putting PRs in against it. Back to you, Scott.
Okay, so I was just thinking, like, should I even mention how many times I've heard that request in the past? think the first request I heard about that was from Dave way back when. Anyway, yeah, I know a bunch of people want that feature. So yes, so mine is a really simple, well, it may unfold into more conversation. There's two blog posts that we wanted to put out. One was for the explaining some of the benefits and some of the cool things that people should be excited about with the OCI feature becoming not experimental and being ultimately finished. So Josh D, who's not on right now, yeah, but and I worked some of that. We're planning on having another sketch session and just kind of edit this, but I can share the, it's not really solid at the moment, but it's basically a sketch of oh, am I freezing?
Yes.
Once again, Scott, we will continue to get the fund to fix your internet.
Yeah, so I agree with David.
Can you hear me better if I stop my video?
You seem a little more solid.
Okay. God damn it. Okay. Anyway, pardon my expletives or whatever. So yeah, we have a just some really some notes and some sketches of some beginnings of this, and we're going to have a follow-up session to edit this, but also anyone else is welcome to contribute or give. This is pretty rough right now, and it's both for the Oris blog post and a blog post for Helm focusing on OCI. The idea is they can link to one another, or one can link to the other.
I think we may have lost Scott. While he's figuring that out, I want to make sure we get moderator notes and triage for next week. So we'll take volunteers in the chat for that.
I'll go ahead and volunteer for moderator.
Oh, wonderful. We have Karen for notes, so we just need issue triage.
I cannot volunteer for that this week. I'm still coming up to speed with TOC stuff, and that's taking up more time than I expected. Now that it looks like we got Scott back, though, I will say the blog post list that he started sounds all right. We could use to get some more blogs out.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, and the second one, can you hear me okay now? I switched networks. I'm hoping it's a little better.
Yes, we can hear you. And we think you would love to do issue triage. Would you like to be voluntold to do that this week?
I will do it, but not this week. I will do it again. I just not this week. I can't, unfortunately.
I think we've run out of people on this call.
Yeah. So the only other, yeah. Yeah. So if someone can do that, that would be great. That's 1 week. I'm just not going to be. I'm going to be like really out a lot. The only other question I had was about a blog post focusing on declarative Helm. There's a lot of talk about that again. Well, there's a lot of, I'm getting a lot of questions about that again recently because of working on the Flux Helm controller, because clearly that's not the first project to try to do declarative Helm or to do declarative Helm, but it is one of the current viable options. And I wanted to write something about the history of this and what options people have for doing that, especially after Brendan Burns gave that talk on what is it, GitOps being an extension or an evolution of Kubernetes declarative design. And the question for me was, where does Helm fit into that? And I think that there are several different answers, but I thought maybe people might want to weigh in on something like that because it's a topic that's coming up a lot.
Yeah, and I know I'll have opinions here because I think one of the things we want to be careful to is to not endorse one particular project or one particular methodology. You know, Helm's a package manager,
Exactly.
and you can do a lot with the package manager with a lot of different projects, right? I mean, I just think of like apt or yum or zipper and the way people have done stuff with Ansible and Chef and Puppet and all these different ways people have done stuff, Terraform. And we want to make sure that we don't do that because all of those are welcome to use and be around Helm. And so we don't want to play favorites. That's the only thing I would say. We can suggest ideas and talk about things. We just want to be careful not to endorse anybody as the one.
100%. Yeah, I remember in Helm 3's design proposal, there was the beginnings of a design proposal for creating a controller, or at that point an operator, and then that was deemed out of scope, and it was going to be followed up in a separate project. It just never was. There had been a couple of different attempts and some other community projects, but people are asking for it more and more. I'm hearing it through GitOps, but of course there's, you can do declarative Helm without using a source of truth like that. So it seems interesting. So, okay, great. I'll definitely reach out to you, Matt. And I just wanted to bring it up as a topic. Thanks. Okay. If there's nothing else, does anyone else have anything they wanted to mention as a topic who didn't have access to the doc to add it to the topic list? All right. Well then, apart from not having an issue triage person yet, oh, David,
Could I just had a quick question. So just to clarify on the fuzzing, is this just a go now and I can list Matt's Farina's email at first and then just start implementing fuzzers on the CNCF fuzzing repository to kickstart this? Is that okay with all of you, or what's the next step from you guys?
Let me get you a list. I'm going to run this by the core maintainer. So I would ask if you could wait to start until this time next Tuesday. Because I'm going to send an email and I'm going to send out a lazy consensus thing just to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So if you could start after this time next Tuesday, that would be awesome. And I'll have one or more email addresses for you, is what I expect.
Sounds good. Cool. I will wait for you to email me then.
Okay.
Okay, great. Definitely not trying to rush anyone, but if there isn't another burning topic, then apart from thinking hard about who could do triage this week and socializing to people that you know who might not be on this call who could, that's a wrap. So we'll see you. Thanks, Bridget and everyone for filling in when my internet went down, and we'll see you on Slack, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks.